Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Read the Book First, the book-to-movie adaptation podcast. This first episode, my lovely friend Amanda and I are discussing Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. It is a classic. If you've not read it, there will be spoilers, so official spoiler warning. So either enjoy the spoilers or hurry up and go read the book and or the Wikipedia article. I hope you enjoyed this episode a lot. I had a lot of fun talking to Amanda about this book. Next week, the episode discussing Treasure Planet and Muppets Treasure Island will be out as well. So make sure you're following us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast and follow us on Spotify. Enjoy the podcast. All right. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Jen. Well, today we're going to be talking about Treasure Island, right?
Yes, Treasure Island.
One of my favorite old classic books, and I know how bad that makes me sound.
No, there's worse opinions you can have in this world.
There are worse opinions you could have.
So just a little background information for anyone listening. Hi, Dad. I had this idea for this podcast, 3 years ago?
3+.
Over 3 years ago. And I told Amanda, because we used to work together, and immediately she was like, you need to read Treasure Island. And I was like,
No, so here's the thing. You're saying this story wrong. You've had this idea for this podcast for a while.
Yeah.
But part of this was born out of the idea as we were arguing about which was the superior adaptation of Treasure Island.
You're
and
right.
I was pointing out that you haven't read Treasure Island, so you don't know which one is an actual superior one. Muppet Treasure Island or Treasure Planet. So that was where this, it wasn't you saying that you were going to do a podcast, and I was like, no, we need to read this one first. It was specifically we were arguing about which was better.
Anyways, I like my version better.
But it's wrong.
Fine. When that whole conversation happened, I was like, okay, I'll read Treasure Island. And I ordered the book, and I got, honestly, 10 pages into it. And I was like, this is the most boring thing I read. And I'm an English major. I've read some boring shit. If you have not figured out by now, we're going to be talking about Treasure Island today by Robert Louis Stevenson. Just a quick little synopsis of the book. It is the OG pirate adventure, treasure
It codified
searching.
a lot of the pirate tropes that we know and love today.
Yes. Essentially, we have young Jim Hopkins. Hawkins or Hopkins?
Hawkins.
I listened to the audiobook. I didn't read it. Anyways, I don't know how things are spelled. He lives in this little tiny inn that his parents own. A stranger comes in and stays with them, tells them the story, and beware of the one-legged
Technically,
guy.
he doesn't tell him anything. He's just like, hey.
I'm giving the summary. You can correct me in a little bit.
No, I'm going to correct you now. So, Jim Hawkins, his family owns this in the Admiral Benbow. This guy named the captain comes in, and he's all sketchy. Everyone calls him a sailor, but he refuses to talk about his life. He just tells Jim to watch out for this one-legged man. And everyone in town is low-key scared, but also low-key amused because he keeps singing all these pirate songs. Stuff goes down. Jim's dad gets sick and dies, and a bunch of strangers come after the captain. And as we later find out, his name is Billy Bones. Billy Bones dies. Jim finds a treasure map in his stuff, takes it to some people that he knows, the Dr. Livesey. I'm not going to say his name right. And
Isn't it Livingston?
Livesey? I think it's Livesey.
I don't know. It's just the doctor.
It's just the doctor. I love the doctor. Not the point. So he takes it to the doctor, who takes it to this guy named Squire Trelawney. They get a ship, they commission it, and there's this crew that gets assigned to it, including this man named Long John Silver, who's a really upstanding, fine
Barbecue, they call him.
They also call him Barbecue, a fine, upstanding gentleman of who Squire Trelawney trusts implicitly. They meet Captain Smollett, and Captain Smollett is kind of an asshole because he's like, hey, I hate all these people and they all suck. And you're an idiot to the Squire. And so the Squire's like, I don't like you either. They go on the journey. It's pretty uneventful for the most part, except for the death of the first mate. Jim climbs into the apple barrel and overhears the fact that Long John Silver, the one-legged man, is the one-legged man that he was supposed to be watching out for. And finds out that there's actually a conspiracy to overthrow the boat and commit mutiny as soon as they get to land. So he like runs up, tells the captain and the squire and the doctor, and they like plot against it. A lot of stuff happens. A lot of it's not that important. Long story short of it, there's a treasure hunt. And honestly, I think we can get into the nitty gritty of it later.
Yeah. I just wanted a quick summary, but I think it covered it.
I kept it as quick as I could.
Honestly, yeah, it's better than what I was going to do. Truly. But
in all fairness, I've read it 6 times.
Yeah, I read it once, plus the first 10 pages that first time. Yeah, so it starts, and it's boring. It is, and like, okay, the beginning is boring, because this guy, you just have to deal with this guy talking about how drunk the captain is, and then dealing with how drunk he is, and I'm like, wow, what a cautionary tale. Wow. And then eventually people start dying, and you're like, oh, finally some spice, and then it gets boring again. But
yeah, there's like it's very like classic old novel of sold in chapters.
Well, yeah, because it was serialized before it was published.
So it's like there's this thing going on. So like if you're like a reader who doesn't know that there's gonna be pirates, you're like, oh my god, what's the deal with this pirate captain? But now that we know that Treasure Island is Treasure Island and there's supposed to be pirates, you're just sitting there and you're like
where are the pirates? To literally quote from myself the third thing I wrote down in my notes in all caps. Give me the pirates already. And I spelled the wrong because I was so furious. Give me the pirates already.
So, like, the setup I will give you is always really kind of, like, a lot. And I always kind of skim over it because there's nothing interesting.
No. And, like, there's nothing interesting. And, like, the dad dies, and he's like, oh, I'm sad. And the captain dies. He goes, now I'm sadder. This is my second death in a week. No. Now I'm like, sadder.
No. I disagree. That's not what happens. Jim is like, oh my god, there's literally a dead body in here. And now there are fucking pirates coming to destroy my house and my mother. And my mother is sitting there, like, trying to pick out the interesting coins that, like, are worth money.
I mean, yes, that part was interesting when they're like people coming after him.
It's the problem of Jekyll and Hyde, where the whole thing is, what's the deal with Jekyll and Hyde? We know.
Yeah.
We know it.
Because it's such an old like book that's been referenced to so much.
So like the only exciting bit of like the first 70 pages is literally that escape part.
Yeah.
And I'm not arguing about that.
Yeah. It's a very boring setup.
Yeah, it's a lot of setup.
It's a lot of setup. When he first decides that, you know, when he goes to the squire and the doctor, etc. Who's the third person?
No, it's just the squire and the doctor.
The squire and the doctor.
And then there's like Tom Redruth. Yeah, Captain comes in later, but there's Tom Redruth, who I'm sure you remember from his very very strong part of Jim is annoyed by him, and then he dies later. Spoilers.
Yeah, we've already spoiled so much, so it's fine. Also, it's Treasure Island. It's an old-ass book. Go read it, I guess. Anyways,
skim the first 70 pages. It'll be fine.
But once they're like about to set off on the Hispaniola, and when they're getting ready for it, they're like, Jim goes to the inn /
a different inn
that Long John Silver owns. Yeah. And then he's like talking to Long John Silver, and he's like, yeah, I got warned to see it. Do you know who Black Dog is? And Long John Silver goes, I don't know, man. I'm just a very successful innkeeper that happens to have a parrot and one leg. And Jim Hawkins goes, interesting. You seem chill.
I'm ready to argue with you about this. Okay, listen. Like, at the time that this story was written, it was not that uncommon for sailors to only have one leg.
Yeah.
And you also have to keep in mind that's part of, like, the setup is, like, Jim has built up this one-legged man to be, like, a behemoth of a monster.
Yeah, he has this very ableist nightmare. Yeah. Which, like, can we talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, like, authors... I mean, I know back then it was, like, the thing to do. You don't need to make your villains look ugly to know that they're ugly on the inside. Your readers are smarter than that. Let's not be ableist. Yeah. Like, that's...
Like Blind Pew is the most uncomfortable thing.
Oh, it was bad. So, yeah.
It's so uncomfortable.
We don't forgive it, but it did happen.
Yeah. So, like, there's this part in the like story and the kind of setup when he's meeting Long John. At first, he is kind of wary because it's like, oh, this is the one-legged guy this is weird, this is suspicious, but Long John very successfully puts him at ease because Long John is the best goddamn character in the existence of everything.
I agree. He's a great character in this book.
Yes,
he's the best character of this book. I agree.
Yeah, no, he's the best character in this book.
Absolutely. Because he's the most interesting, because he has a storied past, and he's morally gray.
He's so freaking ambiguous, and it's great. But that's the thing that gets cut out, is, like, there's the part where the black dog, who's this guy who, like, came up to, like, the captain at Jim Hawkins' parents'
Billy
inn.
Bones.
The Billy Bones guy, yeah.
Who was looking for Billy Bones, right?
Yeah, he was looking for Billy Bones, and he met the captain, who's the one that set off the chain of events that led to the captain's death and the inn being damaged and all that. Jim sees him at the inn and recognizes him instantly, and, like, Silver puts on this really great act of...
It's not that really great.
Okay, but we know that he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So you gotta, like, take that into consideration.
We know he's a bad guy. But Jim is an idiot.
But would we know that he was a bad guy if we didn't know that Long John Silver was the bad guy?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. I think it's too ingrained in our brains that we already know that he's a bad guy, so we don't.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I don't know.
And it's not like, I mean, I'm not saying Jim is smart, because he's not. He's a dumb 13-year-old boy.
Yes.
And he does so many things in this book where I'm like, I know, like, you're lampshading that this is a stupid decision, but also, like, it's still a stupid decision.
Yeah. And then also, I should mention that most of the book is told from Jim's perspective, looking back on it. And I don't think he's mean enough to himself when he's retelling it. He doesn't say, like, this is a stupid thing I did. He needs to be... And that's just the complaint I had about the book in general, was that, like, he's not, like, if you're going to tell a story about a kid's, like, someone's past, I think, especially when a 13-year-old who's going on honestly, a cool adventure, but, like, you need to be, and he does a lot of dumb shit, he needs to be more self-aware as an adult telling the story. But, of course, it was serialized. It was just a way to tell it.
But also, like, it's unclear to me, like, how old Jim is when he's telling this story now.
It sounds like he's an adult.
To me, I don't know.
I mean, because at the end, you know, he's like, and I still have nightmares about 8 pieces.
I mean, you could still have nightmares 3 years later. He still could be a teenager and stupid.
It doesn't really matter how old he is, right?
Well, I'm just saying that if you're 17 and looking back on yourself as a 13-year-old, especially since everything kind of worked out. Yeah. In the manner of speaking.
True.
Because that's the other thing, is, like, all these things where he's like, this was a dumb decision. First of all, some of them he didn't have any control over.
Yeah.
Like, what was he going to do? Tell Squire Trelawney, hey, you can't hire this guy who you like and trust because the dead captain at my inn who died told me to worry about a one-legged man.
That's true.
You know who's really an idiot and doesn't get enough credit for being an idiot?
The Squire.
The Squire
is dumb. Also, question? Yes. Historical question. Is he... Okay, the Squire... What is a Squire in this context? Is that his name? In this context?
No. So, like, it's a position of power. And, like, I'm not...
In, like, the church, the government?
In the government, I think.
Okay.
So, like,
because they're always like, don't put me at trial, Squire. All the pirates are later on. And I was like, it took me till the end to being like, the government.
Yeah.
The true villain.
Like, I don't know, like, what his rank is, but I kind of figured he was, like, minor nobility. Excuse me. So I figured he was, like, minor nobility, like, involved in the process of law, and had some wealth. But he's, again, to his credit, he fully admits that he's an idiot once the truth comes out.
It's true.
And he, like, does get his shit together.
Yeah, but, like, people that weren't idiots died and he didn't die. And that's not logical.
Oh, wait, I want to talk about the captain.
Oh, yeah. Talk about the captain.
So, because that's another thing that always gets cut out is, like, how much tension really exists between the captain and the Squire. Like, because they hate each other's guts. Yeah. And it's just, I just think it's cool because the captain comes on and I'm like, I don't like this trip. I don't like this crew. I don't like anything because you talk too much. Yeah. These people aren't trustworthy. I don't like any of it. And he's right, but he's an ass, so nobody listens to him. Yeah. And that's all I had to say.
Okay. Thank you. Shout out to the captain. So when they're on the boat, like, they're doing pirate boat things, like, you know, sailing across Atlantic.
And that part's always a little, like...
It's boring.
It is boring.
It's like being on a boat is boring until you suddenly are in an apple barrel hearing about mutiny.
Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, the one-legged man who was the one-legged man I was told to be afraid of is the one-legged man.
Da, 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 da. Just how? Just Jim Hawkins.
Like, there's so much kind of going on under the scenes where, like, you know, there's what happens to Mr. Arrow, like the first mate who mysteriously keeps getting drunk and then falls overboard. Again, let's talk about Long John Silver. That's the part of that's more interesting upon rereading it, is seeing all the ways that Long John Silver is influencing the crew in this little section. So my favorite part of the apple barrel scene is him talking to the like person that he's convincing.
Yep.
That's so cool. And it's like watching him manipulate all these people. It's like
Long John Silver would win Survivor.
I will take your word for it.
He would win Survivor. Just based off his manipulation skills. The most exciting part, they finally get to land. Land ho, they yell. And you think, oh, finally, they're at Treasure Island. No, they're at Skeleton Island. And this is where I angry texted Amanda, being like, it's not even called Treasure Island.
Why would they call it Treasure Island?
Because
why would anyone legitimately name an island Treasure Island?
Because their villain... It has one leg, so they're being that, quote, obvious and problematic. But, like...
Okay, but think about it in the context of the story. Yeah, no, I'm not arguing about the problematic thing.
Yeah.
I am saying that if you are a pirate and you are labeling an island, do you want to call it Treasure Island so that everyone and their mother knows that there's treasure there?
No, I agree with that. But then why would you name the book Treasure Island?
Because that's how they refer to it throughout the entire story. It's just not the name of the island. Why would you read a book called Skeleton Island?
No, I wouldn't. But I also wouldn't read Treasure Island if you didn't make me.
I mean, valid.
Also, do you know what the original title of this was?
No.
It was called...
The Sea Cook.
The Sea Cook? Is it the Sea Cook?
It's the Sea Cook,
yeah. It's the Cook or the Sea Cook.
It's the Sea Cook.
Yeah, because I was looking at this little info they had in here.
I don't know why I told you I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. You lied to me. On record. She's a liar.
No, I'm just forgetful.
Yeah, the Sea Cook. Anyways.
But, like, props
That's
to them.
my issue. Is that it's Skeleton Island. And they don't mention that it's called Skeleton Island until they literally arrive. And then I really like that Captain's like, oh, you've been here, Long John Silver. What do you know of it? And he's like, there's this mountain and this mountain and over there's this mountain. Naming every single mountain. Nerd alert. Long John Silver's a nerd.
I mean, yeah.
A successful nerd.
A very successful
He has
nerd.
a wife. Supposedly. We never see the wife.
No, but
we hear of her. And I'm like...
They're also racist about it. So it's like,
yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. But...
Thanks.
But anyway, so yeah, they get to the island. It's Skeleton Island. Scandalous. And this first little part where they get to the island... Second boring part. Actually, this is the third boring part.
Oh my God, that's actually, I think it's really interesting. So, like, the part where they're, like, talking, again, maybe it's just because I've reread it so many times.
Yeah.
But I love that part where they, like, first of all, you know, Jimmy overhears all this shit in the apple barrel. He goes over and immediately tells, like, the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh. So then they have the, like, Council of War, and it's purely, like, Captain Smollett's like, all right, cool. So he said that he wants us to be able to land on the island and get all the treasure on board before he acts. So we still have a little bit of time. And I love seeing the tension that exists in the crew and also, like, of Long John, because sometimes it's really fun to have little reminders in the book that Long John is not this master manipulator. He is a master manipulator, but he doesn't have total control over the people he's trying to manipulate.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's the whole purpose of sending that group ashore, is we need him to
have less people.
Regain control.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need him to regain control of his, like, mutiny before they kill us all right here, right now.
Yeah.
So that's why I like that part.
I mean, that part is interesting. But, like, once they get onto the island and, like, Jim sneaks ashore, right? He sneaks ashore, which is, like, it's so dumb that he sneaks ashore. He, like, makes two dumb sneaking mistakes. This is the first one. I mean, the second one, not that dumb, but like, anyways, it all ends up okay for him. But like, he goes on shore, and then like, honestly, a lot of the stuff that happens on shore, I don't remember what happens. It's just like, oh, he's eavesdropping on this group of pirate and eavesdropping on that until he meets Ben. Mm-hmm. Are we ready to talk about Ben?
No, not yet. Because,
okay.
Like, I want to bring up what happens in that because it's also like,
yeah, what happens there? What do I forget?
What do you forget? Long John kills like 2 people in cold blood right in front of Jim. So Jim's like, oh. Okay, cool. So like, this is like real now. But also, yeah, him sneaking onto the boat, the dumbest thing that happens. I would argue it is the dumbest decision made in the book by anyone, and I'm including the squire.
Dang.
Yeah.
Jim Hopkins. He's dumb. Hopkins, whatever.
It's literally the stupidest choice. It's like, bro. If you were on the ship and they could take it back, they could literally sail away right now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they couldn't because he knew that there was going to be 6. Like, upon rereading it for the 5th time, knowing that it's a dumb decision,
yeah,
I was like, oh, you know what? This actually, like, I low-key understand his reasoning a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's also,
yeah,
that was so fucking dumb, bro. So dumb. So dumb.
Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn? Okay, Ben Gunn is this, he's a marooned pirate. He's a marooned pirate that's been sitting there on the island for 3 years, and he runs into Jim, and he's been living off goats and stuff, and he is described in the most racist way. Jim's, like, reaction to him, and we don't, like, need to dive into it. It's just like, oh, more racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. But I will say, there's one good thing about Ben. Want to know what the good thing about Ben is?
He's not boring.
He's not boring. But Ben, he's been dreaming about cheese, and that is so relatable. If I was stuck on an island for 3 years, I too would be delusional and dreaming of cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Most relatable character. Ben loves cheese.
Yeah, it's a wild journey. I always like, Ben is another part that I kind of skim over because I'm like, I'm glad you said the thing because I was like, man, this is just making me uncomfortable. I don't really know why.
And it's just that first section.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Jim's reaction to Ben. Mm-hmm. Ben himself isn't racist. Jim's reaction to Ben is highly so racist. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, and like learning more about Robert Louis Stevenson's life, I'm like, oh, interesting. And I'll talk about his life later. There's a little section about him in the book I had. Jim goes and meets Ben, and Ben talks on and on. Apparently he was on Billy Bones' boat.
Captain
Flint's.
So Captain Flint is the pirate captain that Billy Bones was serving under.
Ah. Details that I missed because the book was boring. Anyways,
like, don't you want the whole breakdown of the whole structure of the crew? Because I could give it to you right now.
I'm okay. Thank you for offering, though.
Well, I actually have insight onto that we can talk about in a little bit.
Okay, but Ben was marooned by this group, and
technically,
did he run away?
No. So like,
again, I wasn't paying attention. It didn't matter to the plot.
So Ben was part of this crew that part of Captain Flynn's crew. He had joined another crew and told them that the treasure was here. They searched fruitlessly and found nothing, and Ben got marooned there by a second group. And so he's only been there for 3 years. The treasure's been there significantly longer.
Gotcha.
That's the only reason it matters.
Okay. Well, yeah, so he meets Ben, and then Ben, so essentially it's like confirmation bias. I mean, it's not confirmation bias. Jim saw Long John Silver literally killed 2 people, but essentially it's an extra confirmation, yes, he is a bad guy because Ben also had a really bad situation with him.
Yeah,
well,
and that's actually, I'll bring it up now. It's a really interesting part of the book that Ben Gunn talks about. He was Long John Silver, it's revealed he was the quartermaster, and actually on pirate ships back then, quartermasters were the second most important thing. So Ben Gunn has this line of everyone was afraid of Flint, but Flint was afraid of Long John. And it's it makes sense because he's the quartermaster.
Yep.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah,
I think it is.
No, I mean, I love pirates, just not pirates in this book.
Well, that's because they don't really do the pirate thing. They're much more interested in
they're just sailors that are wanting money.
They're sailors and they're British and they want like rules to be
They're
followed.
imperialists.
Exactly.
And that's boring.
It is a little bit.
But
also like I really like the book.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's you're more than welcome to have your opinion. I just will tell you that it's boring. Anyways, stuff happens and Jim eventually gets back with the captain and the doctor.
Oh, but then
what happens between that?
Oh my god, so there's a whole section.
Because I don't remember anything.
So, like, first of all, this is why the doctor is, like, my favorite character. Second favorite character. Because Long John's obviously the best.
Long John's the best.
But the narrative gets taken over by the doctor for, like, 3 chapters.
And it was boring.
And it talks about, how they, first of all, escape the boat because they're like, there's no way we can take it. Oh my god, Jim went on the island with these fuckers.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the whole battle.
Yeah, so, like, they get onto the boat, they escape, they get shot at on cannon, and then they they lose half their supplies that they were going to use to try to wait out the pirates. They find this like stockade fort and they set up there, and like there's a part of the book where like the doctor thinks that Jim is dead and he's like real upset about it, and I'm like, the OG father figure that never gets credit.
He's not the father figure in this book.
Yes, he is.
No, okay, I'll talk about this later, about my opinions about the father figure.
I think you're wrong. It's very subtle, but it is there. So he like thinks that Jim is dead and he's real upset about it, and they're about to like record his death, and that's when Jim runs up. Long John Silver shows up and is like, I'm entering under a flag of treaty.
But before that happens, when Jim's reporting to the captain and telling him about Ben Gunn and the cheese, I just wrote this another cheese mention, which is why I remembered it. If it talks about cheese, I remembered it. And so he's back there reporting him, like being like, hey, I found this dude Ben. He can help us, but he really wants cheese. And the captain goes,
Doctor.
It's the captain.
It's the doctor. It's the doctor with the Parmesan.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I was listening to an audiobook, so I don't remember who said what. Anyways, the doctor, whoever it was, says, cheese, you say, and takes out his snuff box, and inside his snuff box is Parmesan cheese. And I just think that's an iconic move. Do you have cocaine in your snuff box? No, that would be silly. I have Parmesan. It's a Parmesan box. And I just like that part. Yeah. So maybe when I was listening, whenever that conversation came up, I thought it was the captain in my brain. Yeah. But whatever. Anyways, I like the cheese snuff box bit.
The doctor and the captain, like, look. Am I saying that there's a lot of character to the doctor? No.
They just blend together to my brain.
Yes, because they're both like rule-following British people who are like, duty and honor and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's all, like... That's why they just blend together.
But the captain couldn't give 2 shits about what happened to Jim.
Yeah.
And the doctor does.
Okay. Wow. Anyways, so Long John Silver that's when they started doing the whole like treaty thing, right?
Yeah.
Does Jim sneak out before the treaty though?
No. So like they have
There's the first
attack on the stockade before Jim gets there. I did forget about that because the stockade gets cut because it sucks.
It's so boring.
It's like so repetitive. Yes. They attack, people die. They attack, people die.
War is boring. Be more dramatic. Slap someone instead.
That's why it's always really sad that they cut out the petty drama between the squire and the captain. So they have the first attack on the stockade. Jim shows up. The treaty happens. Nobody helps Long John get up off of his seat.
Oh, yeah.
That's like always like...
That's like, it's like, one, it's like, yes, like us in modern day is like, that's incredibly rude. But 2, as like someone who's going against someone who's trying to, like, he's trying to go to a mutiny against these people, right? So like, he's like the opposition. A really petty move, honestly. Baller move.
So that happens, and then they have the second attack on the stockade. Another person dies, and for the life of me, I couldn't tell you who it was. Joyce and Hunter, I think. I could not tell you anything about them.
I know 4 people's names, and I can't even get the main character's name right.
Yeah, so they have that attack, and then that's when Jim runs off, because the captain's hurt.
And I wrote a note. So when Jim runs off, he refers to it as he takes a French leave. Yeah. and when he sneaks out the hiding spot, and I'm like, that is so British. And also, like, when did we as a society start saying an Irish goodbye instead of a French leave? And I don't know which one's worse or which one's better. Context, and like, they're both probably bad. But I do enjoy that the pettiness between France and England seeps through the writing so much that Jim sneaks out and takes a French leave.
Well, I think like the French leave is more specifically the like running away from duty.
Yeah, because
an Irish goodbye is I'm just gonna dip out of this social engagement.
Well, yeah, but the same thing in this situation, it's the same thing. You could label it both things. I've never heard the French leave, and I just found it really funny.
It is funny.
Yeah,
I would argue that this is not as stupid as a move.
It is a better. I think you're right. I just thought I was just mad at him for not like saying as a narrator, I did stupid things. That's
Yeah. So like, because what he does, and I don't really remember quite why he snuck out. I think he was just trying to get.
He's trying to get the Hispaniola because he's like, we're gonna need to escape, and if we can escape in the boat, they can't escape in the boat. Which is that's a good move. You just need more thought processing about it,
or maybe tell somebody where you're going.
Yeah, tell someone where you're going, or
13-year-old boy.
Or realize that Long John Silver's not dumb. He's gonna leave some pirates there to watch the boat.
But he knew that ahead of time.
Yeah,
it's just he kind of wanted to see like what state they were in, because the other thing is like these pirates keep picking each other off one by one because they're stupid.
Yeah, men.
Yeah, men.
That's the other issue with this book, but we can get to that later.
There's no woman.
Yeah,
there's one woman,
but she's not in there. She's referred to.
No, there's one woman, Jim's mom.
Oh, I forgot Jim's mom.
How could you forget Jim's mom?
Because she's not a part after this chapter 2. She's like, my husband died and almost got burnt down. Oh no.
Yeah, like that's it. We're gonna get into that later.
Anyway.
So like Jim goes on to Hispaniola. I also really like that part. Yeah. Once he actually gets onto the ship.
Then it's that because there's actual drama.
Yeah. There's like a whole like 30 pages of him just being in the boat next to the boat. And I'm like, man, you sure are on the boat.
It's like the wave brings me up and the tide and the bow and all these words. And I'm like, you still in that dinghy, dude?
And he's like, I almost lost the Hispaniola. And I'm like, man, it's almost like you should have got on it as soon as you saw it.
Almost.
But it's a good thing he waited, because then the other guy died.
Yeah.
And then he only had to fight Israel Hands. And he had to fight a weakened Israel Hands.
Yes.
Which is probably the only reason he didn't die.
Absolutely. A 13-year-old versus a seasoned pirate?
Yeah.
Who's drunk?
Yes. And also, like, already injured and has a bad leg.
Yeah.
And he still almost dies. He like, gets pinned to the mast.
Yeah.
And, like, that part.
That scene was interesting. I was like, finally,
so cool.
pirate shit.
And then my favorite shit that happens after that, honestly.
What is?
Well, when he gets off of the ship, he's, like, marooned it off into the spot. He, like, has this freak out that he killed somebody.
Yeah.
And then he, like, runs back to the stockade. And everyone he knows is gone.
Oh, yeah.
And he, like, wakes up among all the pirates. And he's like, fuck.
I done did bad. I was scared a little bit of that. Because I was going off of my memory of Treasure Planet, which I can't really discuss much right now because we'll save that for later. But I was just like, this is not what happens in the movie. And so for the first time in the book, I was like, ooh, suspense. And then in the back of my mind, I remembered, oh, they haven't looked for treasure yet.
Yeah. Honestly, like, that's why, like, the adaptations of Treasure Island are so interesting. And we're not going to get into the specifics, but they really do such a good job of, like, cutting the boring bits out of the book.
Yes, so much. They edited where he didn't want. I mean, he was serializing, so I get it. You gotta get that money. Good for you.
You gotta get that money. You gotta like figure out. Sometimes you just need to write a chapter where you're stuck in a boat while you figure out what's gonna happen next. I honestly feel like
if
that's
I ever write a book, I'm gonna write one chapter, and it's only gonna be in the edition I give you. So you'll be confused about this boat situation. When everyone else will look at you like, that's crazy, and then you'll just be like, no, chapter 25 has his boat, and you'll be like, haha, long con. It's gonna happen. But yeah, so he gets back and he's talking to Long John Silver, and he's like, where's the doctor? Where's Captain? Where's everyone? And
then Long John comes in and he's like, oh yeah, they're all really mad at you, by the way.
Yeah. Which, like, pro move. Pro move.
Look. I know we're not talking about adaptations, but it's literally the exact same speech in The Muppets.
I've not seen that movie since I was a child. I'm very excited to rewatch it.
It's like, it's very different context, but he basically is like, I'm the only person you have to rely on here. Like, you know, they weren't ever going to be like, any goodwill you had with them, you ruined because you did this dumb thing. And they're all like so glad to be rid of you, especially the doctor. And And it's like, yeah, man,
That's a good move.
Get that money. And then Jim, who again we know is stupid,
yes,
but God, is he brave sometimes. He gives that whole little speech after being told that he's alone in the world and he's gonna like do all these things. He gives that great speech about, hey, I'm the one that's messed up all of your plans the entire way.
Yeah.
And he gets all these pirates into a blood rage, and the only reason he doesn't die is because Long John shows him a slight maybe sliver.
Long John likes him.
He does.
And he's like, all right, son.
No. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, that it will be forever ambiguous. And, like, you can't make it ambiguous in a movie and TV show. It is so unclear to me, because I'm dumb, how much of it is genuine and how much of it is,
because he's so good at manipulating.
Yes. And also, you're my meal ticket out of here. And if you are on my side in this particular moment in time, I have a chance of surviving.
I like to think it's about 50-50. 50-50, like half of him like using Jim as the scapegoat. To not really a scapegoat, as an escape, right? And half like, oh, this kid is smart. I could train him to be the next me. I could invest in this kid so that I can, and that's like, but that's also me reading into it. Is there enough textual evidence? Probably not.
So like I do see where you're coming from with that, but I think like there's not enough time spent previous to this scene in the stockade.
But imagine if there was.
I know.
It'd be way better of a book. I missed one of my notes I wrote. So backtrack a little bit, when Jim is trying to get back to the Hispaniola to go hide it, he describes a creature as a large snail and that it looks harmless, and he's describing sea lions. And I just want everyone in the world to know, as an Alaskan and someone who grew up on the water, sea lions are not harmless. They will fuck you up, my dude. Seals are chill. And also, they do not look like snails.
In all fairness, I will take your word that it doesn't look like a snail. I've seen sea lions, I promise, at the zoo. In all fairness to him, he's like, I saw these giant gray brown things and they scared the living life out of me. And I found out later that they probably wouldn't have harmed me, but I was too freaked out. And I was like,
no, for sure. But like, he calls them large snails. And I just am so offended for sea lions everywhere. So to sea lions everywhere, we apologize on behalf of Robert Louis Stevenson.
I do not apologize on behalf of this man. I do
just
not
for the sea lions.
Him.
Just for the sea lions. Just for the sea lions.
I don't.
Anyways, I just really had to. That's one of my last notes. Was like for me ranting about the sea lion.
Oh, Long John. Let's keep talking about Long John.
Okay. He's the coolest character.
He is the coolest character.
And he's still barely written well.
And he's so smart. He's so smart. And like in a book that wasn't written in the 1700s where they need to pretend to like, they need to uphold this moral standard.
Was it the 1800s? 1883 was when it was published.
Yeah, so it's Victorian England. They gotta like be morally upright. In a book that would have been written later, Long John would have gotten more screen time.
Oh, he would have been great.
And it would have been like so interesting.
The fact that this was almost named The Sea Cook does not have enough of him in it.
Well,
I mean, it does at the end. Like the last third is mostly interactions with him, but the middle part, like besides the apple barrel scene, there's just too much of other people.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, like, it's very focused. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. All right, I have a question. So again, I was listening to the audiobook mostly while I was walking my dog. So did I pay attention to all the ending? Absolutely not. Here's how I remember the ending. So Long John Silver is like, hey, we made this deal with the captain, with Ben and all of them. They come back. The doctor, because the doctor is also the pirate's doctor, and like
because the so like the doctor's British, and he's like, hey, I took a Hippocratic oath, and like I'm still gonna heal these people even though you literally shot at me like 4 times, and again I stand the doctor. I
think that's dumb, but whatever. No, they're trying to kill you.
No, it's like...
But anyways, I'm not a doctor.
But honestly, like, I just, I have a thing for medics, because that's, like, a thing that's really admirable about them, is that they treat people no matter the side.
Yeah.
I also love that scene, because, like, first of all, the doctor's, like, doesn't know what the hell happened to Jim.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my god, you mean Jim is here? And he's, like, in the company of all these pirates? Jim, please run away like right now with me. And Jim's like, nah.
Yeah.
And then the doctor's like, crap, now we have to revise our damn plans.
Yep.
and so that part.
That happens, and then they all go together to go look for the treasure, but they trick the pirates to go somewhere else, right?
No. So what happens?
I don't remember.
It took me like first of all, just a little bit of background for all of y'all out there. I read this in 7th grade, and we read the plain English version, and we talked about it in class. And that's the only reason I understood what happened at the end. Because the ending's also so rushed.
Yes.
Anyway, I really like this book. I know it's flawed. So, Doctor comes in, tells Silver, hey, please, like be smart because you now have my kid under your protection. And if the pirates who have almost already killed him get mad, he's probably going to be the first one to die. So, watch out for squalls and all that. Doctor goes back to their, hideout where
the cave
where Ben Gunn is hiding.
Yeah, with the goat pelts.
With the goat pelts, yes.
I remember that. I don't remember what happened, but I remember the goat pelts.
So pirates then go treasure hunting. They find a skeleton that's laid out all unnatural. They keep hearing a voice of,
and they get freaked out. Yeah,
they get freaked out by the voice. They go dig up the treasure where the map says the treasure is. There's no treasure. Silver manages to shoot one of them. And then the Doctor and Ben Gunn show up to save the day and vamoose out to the ship.
Yeah.
Because Ben Gunn found the treasure, dug
years
it up,
ago,
and moved it.
Years ago. And that was so infuriating to me. My biggest complaint with this book is that the treasure hunt aspect doesn't exist. There's no mysteries. There's no booby traps. They get scared because a skeleton and someone echoing a voice in a cave. I want more spoopy stuff. I was sad about that, and I was very upset that Ben had the treasure the whole time. Though I will say, because we've watched Treasure Planet together, and I've heard your thoughts on that version of Ben, and I just want to say, I have some other thoughts of your thoughts on Ben for that movie, but we'll save it.
Yeah.
Because of this ending. Because now I know how this ends.
Yeah.
And
so, here's my thing. I get where you're coming from. I really do.
Yeah.
I love this part because it's so much fun to be oh, so this map that we've been looking for the entire time has been completely useless and we've all been fighting over it for nothing because, this thing has already happened. But I would also point out that Jim, even though he's awful to Ben in his thoughts, outwardly, he's pretty
he's very nice to him.
Outwardly.
He's a gentleman.
And his
outwardly.
kindness to him is the reason that they don't immediately, that they have the treasure in the first place. And it's great.
No, I get, and there is yes, he wrote, Stevenson wrote this book for young adults, young children, younger children. And so there is that moral to it, oh, this dude who was nice gets the treasure, which I do appreciate. And there is some metaphor of oh, if you're not mean and greedy, you end up getting there is a metaphor you could take from it. But there's not much.
Also, don't drink rum, you'll die, kids.
Exactly. There's not enough roots to that metaphor though. It's it was thrown in at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't like. And I'm fine if Ben had it. I just wish there was more treasure hunt before we get the just kidding, Ben had it. If Ben was out doing something with who knows, making more goat hides while they were treasure hunting, and then they met up with him later after the pirates got all pissed off there was no treasure. That would be, there just needed to be a little bit more of what's going to happen. I think it's
cool foreshadowing because again, upon the 5th reread,
yes,
Ben starts mumbling about one of the things that he starts rambling about is how the treasure and the treasure and the treasure and the treasure, and Jim just thinks that he's nuts. And it's oh no, he's telling Jim about the treasure because he's already found it and moved it to his cave with the white rock. So that's why he keeps rambling about the white rock. Also, I want to talk again about Long John because I remembered the thing I was going to talk about earlier. That scene where he gets the black spot,
yes,
is so good. It's so good because he literally sits there and he talks everyone else down and he answers all of the charges that have been brought to him. And the part where he brings up that which one of you idiots had a Bible and you cut the black spot out of the Bible, how dare you? And it's such great manipulation. Such a good character.
It's a great character.
Love him.
Yeah. Essentially, after they find the treasure, they go back to England. and they have Long John Silver, and then they get to England. No, I thought he gets lost or he runs away in England.
He runs away. So here's the thing.
They go to another stop and then he runs away?
They go into like the Caribbean, and there's another like really racist part where they talk about all the jolly natives, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just skim over that, please.
Yeah.
And Long John disappears off the ship there because Ben Gunn was like, I let him go because he was going to kill us.
Yes. Yeah. And then Long John escapes, which is like primo. He needs to escape.
Yeah.
Like, he's too cool to
And
die.
also, like, Jim is low-key like, I'm kind of glad he escaped. I hope he's still alive with his wife.
Yeah.
Except he doesn't say wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they end up going home, and then it ends with Jim like saying, "And I still have nightmares of someone of the parrot
waking up that cave full of pirates.
That ate pieces of eight. Yeah, we didn't talk about the pirate lingo. This book created most of the pirate lingo.
It is true.
Yeah, yo-ho.
15 men's on a dead man's chest.
And
15
men on a dead man's chest. Something rum.
Yo-ho-ho and
a bottle of rum. The yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. That is from Treasure Island, which I thought was pretty cool.
The parrots on the shoulders was not a thing.
Peg leg was not a thing, really, for specifically pirates. Yeah. It was just people at sea who had hard lives.
People lost their legs a lot.
Yeah, because
Royal Navy kind of sucked.
Yeah. Also, sailing's hard.
Sailing is hard.
There's ropes and shit.
And people got their legs crushed by cannons a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so that's really cool. What I liked. I wish there was more pirate stuff in this book, not about pirates.
It's really not. It's about like a sea journey. And then, like, the pirates are the antagonists, and they're all just a bunch of drunken idiots.
Yeah.
So, like, the most interesting thing to me is, like, in the American interpretations of this story is we put so much more emphasis on the pirates and the freedom because that's what pirates are to us.
And America.
Because America, individualistic, that's our entire identity, freedom, yo-ho.
And a bottle of rum.
So, like, they're not so much these thieving evil makers as they are, like, these... these like people who have all this freedom in their lives.
Entrepreneurs.
They're entrepreneurs.
They're capitalists.
They're capitalist entrepreneurs. And we all know how Americans feel about entrepreneurs and capitalism.
Yeah.
So while Treasure Island really codified and perfected a lot of these tropes about pirates, it's so interesting looking at it because this guy is trying to convince you how awful pirates are. And everyone's like, no. More pirates, please. So it's kind of like Dracula because Dracula is trying to be like vampires are these evil like also sexual beings.
Another boring book that I had to read, which actually I like Dracula more than I like this.
I get that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not, like the pirates are the thing that have the most emphasis in all the adaptations because people like pirates.
People
and
like
Long
pirates.
John
pirates are hot.
Whatever you say. Long John gets so much more sympathetic in all the adaptations, which is actually something I don't like because I like that ambiguity of how much he is.
I like the sympathy.
I know.
Yeah. One of the little bit extra background information about this that you probably might know. So, a little bit about his life. He did take a boat. I was wondering if he ever did a big boat trip across because he's English. Actually, he's Scottish technically. But I wondered if he had done the transatlantic, thing. He did not before writing this book, but he did do a Mediterranean mini cruise with rich people, which is not the same, my bud. Anyways, he falls in love with this lady, this Californian lady named Fanny, who was married to someone else at the point, falls in love with her. She goes back to California to get divorced, and then he ends up traveling to California to go be with her and her son. So he has a stepson. In 1981, after they get married, Stevenson and his stepson spend their time making up fake islands and drawing maps, and that's what inspired this book. It's not the voyages. It's that him and his stepson drew maps. Like, directly is what inspired this.
That's low-key kind of cute.
It's so cute, but then why doesn't this book have the dad killed off right away? And then suddenly Jim has like 5,000 stepdads that are all pirates and drunkards. Like, if you're gonna self-insert yourself as the Doctor, Robert Louis Stevenson, you need to do it better, because I didn't even realize that was supposed to be the dad character until halfway through. I was like, oh, it's Jim's new dad. It's a stepdad. Well, almost.
And I would argue that, like, that's part of, like, if you really want to overanalyze the book,
yeah,
you can argue that that's kind of the development that the Doctor goes through. Is his father?
It's like sudden fatherhood.
He kind of keeps Jim at a distance for a lot of it, and it's just, again, because he's British, feelings are allergic.
Yes.
But so him, like, going on this adventure, and, like, he does get more involved in Jim, and, like, kind of be like, oh, actually, I do care about what happens to this kid.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah, and then in the movie versions, a lot of that fatherhoodness goes on to Long John Silver instead of the Doctor, which I like more because he's a more interesting character to me. But I know that you like the separateness of two different kinds of characters. Like, you have the Doctor, and then you have...
See, and this is something that, again, we'll talk about when we talk about my made-up miniseries that'll never happen, is I think I do like it when that happens. It's just, I wish it didn't happen to the detriment of the Doctor. You know, because I think you can have these two contrasting father figures. Because I think you're right. I think Jim does look up to Long John as, like, a father figure, as somebody who's, like, much more open to him, and, like, especially in those short 2 chapters about the sea version that, like, is really easy to skip over. He does, like, talk about how, like, Long John's always, like, so nice and, like, cool,
and teaching him how to do stuff.
And part of it is, this is a note that I wrote in here that I didn't write about my notes, because a lot of them are about the adaptations. A lot of times the adaptations, when they talk about how Long John has manipulated everyone on the crew, they really focus more on how he manipulates Jim, because Jim is the protagonist.
I mean, he is.
He's the viewpoint character.
He's the protagonist.
Okay, whatever you say.
The protagonist is the viewpoint character, yes. But if the pirates are the antagonist, who's the protagonist then?
I would say that's a Russell. You don't find Jim's the protagonist. He's just boring.
He is boring. You can be boring and the protagonist. That happens in most of English literature.
That's true. So Jim gets more of a character, and he gets more emphasis. And they do that by having Long John form that relationship with him, that manipulation kind of thing.
Yeah.
I won't talk about that because we're not talking about the movies.
We're not talking about the movies yet.
I think that's a really good relationship to lean into, so I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah. But when I read that, that's what inspired, the treasure map inspired that, I was like, oh, that's cute. But also I'm like, oh, bud, you didn't make the characters cool enough to be you. Like, you know, I thought that was interesting. And then later on in this little timeline that's in my book.
Would you have rather that the Doctor was this badass who came in and saved the day all the time?
Yes, it'd be more interesting.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be boring. I mean, he'd have to
save the day. He just needed to be more interesting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he didn't have to. Also, like, you don't have to change the fact that Jim makes dumb mistakes, because, like, that moves the plot along, and that, like, you know, I understand that, but, like,
lazy writing.
It is lazy writing, and the fact that the Doctor, his characteristic is like, oh, he's smart because he knows medical stuff, and then also he's like British, and then he doesn't kill people. Like, those are his 3 character traits.
Okay, no. First of all, his character traits is that he is smart. So it's not just, like, the medical stuff. It's also the fact that he, like, is, like, pretty upfront with people. Like, he tells Billy Bones, hey, if you keep drinking rum, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
He also cares a lot about his patients, because there's this part in the book where they talk about how, like, he journeys off long and hard to, like, go off in all these directions. There's also the fact that he is somebody who cares deeply about, like, what he is expected to do in his duty. So, like, you know, they talk about how he goes off to London to find someone to take care of his, like, country practice, because he doesn't want his patients to suffer while he's on this journey.
I think that's why you like it. It's because he's, like, ridiculously loyal to his, like, values, and I find that so boring.
I know. It's funny. It's like, so, like, here's the thing. I did a top 10 list with one of my friends, and it's like top 10 character tropes. Yeah. And it's like half of it is just like sidekick characters, and the other half is like medics, and then like people like Doctor just checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I think that's really it. I'm not going to convince you that he's not that cool, but
I didn't say he was cool. I just like him.
Do you know what Stevenson later did in his life?
Sorry, you were about to tell me more about that, yeah.
So after he was in California for a while, they traveled. He published Treasure Island. It became pretty popular in England. And then he went back to England, and they traveled a while around France and stuff. He published some more stuff. And then eventually they made their way to Samoa.
Oh, okay.
And he got involved in Samoan politics at that time. And he, like, wrote some stuff in support of someone being a Samoan chief. And I don't know enough context of that time of that world to say anything else. I thought that was interesting that he did the more, like, different, very island life after he wrote Treasure Island. That's what I found interesting. I did not Wikipedia it more because I haven't had time. But I think he did some weird stuff at the end of his life. But I thought that was weird that he ended up in Samoa later.
It's very imperialism.
Very much. I would rate this book, you ready for this? Out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 2.5.
That's fair.
I think there's really a few parts of it that I really enjoyed. And then most of it, also a lot of it is the writing style.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of, I
know they weren't actually paid by the word, but it feels like
they're being paid by the word. And that's because of the serialization of it. Mm-hmm. I don't love serialized books from this time period. And I've known that. And it wasn't until the end of the book when I looked at the beginning of my physical book to see, like, the extra information it came with. I was like, oh, it was serialized. Mm-hmm. That is why I'm not enjoying it. And that's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think it's a bad book. I don't think it's like, yes, there's problematic. There's plenty of problematic stuff. But I read way more problematic books from the quote, the canon, capital C, during my English degree than this. So, like, of, like, the books from this time period that's about pirates that you think is going to be way more, like, most of Shakespeare's plays are way worse than this.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
So, like, I don't think in that way, not that we should be comparing problematicness, because, like, just, be better, but also it's very of the time.
Yeah, it is.
But I just personally, my biggest flaws was that not enough pirates. Not enough pirates.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know we were going to have to rate it.
You don't have to. I just wanted to tell you.
I would come up with math to help me rate it. Because, like, the problem is, like, I want to say it's, like, 4 stars for me.
You can say, like, a childhood favorite, but now as an adult, it could be whatever. You know what I mean?
I've also reread it more as an adult than a child.
Yeah, but
I think it is a book that I just really, really enjoy because I do kind of like these adventure kind of style novels. Mm-hmm. Like, I love Three Musketeers. I love Tom Sawyer. Like books that are kind of like
old books written for 12-year-old boys.
Yeah. I don't know what that says about me, and I don't think we need to get into it.
We don't. That's not the point of this podcast. I could be a separate podcast.
So I think it's like 3.5 stars for me. It's like, I just really I like the adventure part of it. I like Jim. I know Jim is dumb and stupid and he makes bad choices.
But it's entertaining.
It is entertaining. I like reading about the manipulation. I like reading about, like, all the, like, subtle ways these plans come together and collide. I like reading about how the plan goes wrong and then also still works out. I really like the Doctor. We all know. I like Long John Silver because he's such a manipulative bastard.
Long John Silver is the coolest part of this book.
He is.
Every time he was in the book, I was like, okay, I'm going to pay attention now.
Then, yeah, I like the captain too. I think he's kind of interesting because, like, he's such an asshole, but he's also right.
The captain and the Doctor for sure blended in my brain. They're the same character.
They are not the same.
In my brain, they are the same character.
The captain is, like, significantly more, like, harsh than the Doctor. Yeah. And the Doctor's like, I'm just, like, here, man. I'm just vibing.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. It's definitely, there are parts of it, even when I'm rereading, I'm like, all right, skim.
Yeah.
Like, the whole first part of the book. Mm-hmm. And then the part where they're, like, really sexist about Jim's mom. I'm like, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. This is a book about the boys for the boys. Yeah. But anyways, we're gonna eventually, next little while, watch Muppet Treasure Island. And then we're gonna watch Treasure Planet. And then we're gonna come back and talk about them versus each other, versus the book.
Versus how I would adapt it personally.
Yeah. I think we should save your adaptation for then.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. but I'm excited. I now don't know how to end the podcast. I haven't decided to sign off.
Yo ho, yo ho.
And a bottle of rum. Bye.